Hello Internet, good afternoon. It's Nick from Tractor Time Equipment in downtown Metchosin, just outside Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. And I thought I'd give you a bit of an overview this afternoon on the Mahindra 1626, most popular selling tractors, and for good reason. This is a nice machine. It's about 600 pounds heavier than the Max 26, which is its younger brother. Also has the same kind of family history. So this particular tractor, like the Max 26, comes from Japan. It's a Japanese made machine. Mahindra owns 33% of Mitsubishi's tractor company, so they are partners in that Mitsubishi Mahindra Agricultural Machinery Company of Japan, and that's the product that we're seeing here. This tractor comes in two different flavors. So this one is a shuttle shift 4-speed 2-range transmission. So you've got a stick shift type transmission. It's a fully synchronized transmission. You'll see it here with the 4-speed shift lever, and up here we have the shuttle shift, so all your forward reverse function is done here. It's a mechanical, it's a fully synchronized shuttle, so you can actually be rolling forward or backwards while you shift from forward to reverse, for example. And it is a fully synchronized transmission, so you shift on the fly and drive it like you would a modern car. A car that would have a manual transmission. So this lever here is a 2 range, so it's a high and a low range. That gives you your 2 times 4, that's your 8 forward, 8 reverse speeds. Up on the fender well, you can see there's a yellow PTO handle. That's your PTO engagement. If this tractor had a mid PTO, then this slot would have a second handle. On the fender well, you can see there's a drink holder built into each side, so you can actually pack around a drink and a backup drink. For some of you that might be important. This is the M Comfort seat. So that's the Mahindra sourced seat that's produced by a company in the United States that also builds for Harley Davidson. On the control side of things, it does have a tilt steering column, and so that's fully adjustable, an instrument cluster that gives you all of the necessary information. So there are lights, warning lights, as well as a tachometer, fuel gauge, temperature gauge, as you might expect, and a few other warning lights if you have a parking brake engaged, that sort of thing. So compared to the Mahindra Max, this is still a compact tractor, but you can see the wheels and tires are that much bigger. As I mentioned, 600 pounds heavier. Loader lift capacity is just a hair under 1,600 pounds, so that's a heavier built loader than the Max, and the bucket width on this machine is 60 inches wide compared to 54 inches wide. Not quite as tight turning. I did mention the turning radius on the Max as being incredible. This is tight turning, just not quite what the Max can do. There is one feature of this tractor which I find kind of interesting and I think in some ways superior. The Backhoe, which is American made, as is the loader. So the Backhoe offers a separate seat. It's wide open, as you can see here, super easy to get on and off. And as those of you out there who might be perhaps over 40 years old, and I'm well over that now myself, start to appreciate the ease of access on a machine like this. It's just so much simpler than rotating a seat, but the rotating seat is really necessary when you have that much smaller machine. You can see on the roll bar that it is also foldable at this point here. So once that's down, you can get into your low clearance shed or mow underneath some shrubs or trees or that sort of thing. The Backhoe offers the mounting capability to put a mechanical thumb, pretty much like the other Backhoes that we sell. This is a standard category 1 3-point hitch. The lift arms and so on are here. You can see them in place. This large pin in the back goes through to this side, here. So that large pin, there's one on each side. Those are the only pins that mechanically lock the Backhoe onto the subframe. We should talk about Backhoes in terms of subframes. I mean, almost no manufacturer these days would ever dream of selling you a Backhoe that was 3-point hitch mounted, for good reason. I mean, the 3-point hitch had a design that was never meant to take the stresses and strains of a Backhoe, and I've actually operated 3-point hitch mounted Backhoes in the past, and unless you're really careful as an operator and do certain things to modify the Backhoe, it's a headache, it's a problem, and it stresses and pulls on a tractor like you wouldn't believe. So I've seen the rear ends of tractors pulled off or broken because people ran 3-point hitch mounted backhoes. So the good news is that almost nobody does that anymore, but there are some differences in subframes. So in this case, you can see there's a subframe that mounts in the way that I showed you with those 2 pins. But also, when you're looking at competitive tractors, you want to look at how that subframe assembly attaches to the tractor. Most all of them will carry through this bracketry you can see to take a load kind of in the middle part of the tractor. But also, there are competitive brands out there that really compromise the ground clearance. So you can make a simple frame to add a backhoe, but if that frame hangs down, sort of 6 to 8 inches below what the tractor would normally run at, in my view, that's a problem and a bit of a weakness, especially if you're doing work on rough ground, which is the kind of ground that we have here in British Columbia, at least on the island. I mean, these tractors are not running in fields tilling things. They're often running through the bush, through forested areas, there's or small acreage where there's a mix of ground types. So on the loader, you can see there also is a bucket level rod indicator, which is nice. So once this rod, and you can establish the level once you get to know your tractor, this point and this point on the rod, or a mark that you put on the rod. Once those points are aligned, then you know that your bucket's level with the ground at ground level. So it's a nice looking tractor. It's got they call it the Eagle design, which is a Japanese Mitsubishi design house kind of thing. 26 horsepower engine. It's Mitsubishi's own engine. Again, no DPF, no DEF fluid. 7-year parts and labor warranty with no deductible on the powertrain. 2-year bumper to bumper on the tractor. Loaders and backhoes typically come with a 1-year, and then in some cases it's a 2-year on the structural mounts that go onto the tractor. So that does depend on the model, but it's good to know. And as I mentioned before, it's good to understand that tractors come with their own warranties. Loaders and backhoes come with their own warranties. Control wise, this particular machine, because it's shuttle shift, also has a throttle on the floor, which you can see is there next to the brakes. The other controls are very similar. So you have parking brake, lock, and on the lower part of the tractor you've got 4-wheel drive engagement, which is the orange lever. You have a differential lock, which is on the far side away from us on the floor, and speed control for the 3-point hitch. On the far fender you can see the joystick mount, which is in a nice ergonomic location compared to where the armrest is. The yellow knob is linked to your PTO, so if you had to kill the PTO quickly, that you would just hit that knob and it would shut the PTO off. And then your 3-point hitch control is that other lever you can see on the fender there. Full seat belt setup, of course, which is mandatory these days, and a small toolbox that's mounted on the back of the tractor. That is the 1626. Is kind of an overview, as I mentioned, just to give you a flavor of what this machine is like. And I think if you're running sort of in the range of 2 to 2.5 acres and up, then you might want to consider the 1626 over the Max. And a lot of it comes down to maneuverability. If you've got a lot of tight places that you need to get into or out of, perhaps the Max is a better fit for you. If it's a little bit more wide open, you can see yourself needing a little bit more tractor underneath you. I do like this tractor when you're using pallet forks. So if you've got a load on it, it just is well planted and well suited for, say, loading a sawmill or anything like that. That's a fairly popular thing on Vancouver Island with all our forests. They're not all gone and people are still chopping them down, obviously, for their own private use. And I know a lot of guys who need or want something that can load their own mill because they're milling lumber for a project, a house on the property, or a workshop, that kind of thing. This tractor does very well in that type of application. So that's the overview of the 1626. You guys have a great day. If you need any more information at all, www.tractortime.com. And it's Nick signing out.